Okay, so Chodesh Tov, we are talking about Elul, the month of Elul, and specifically the power of spiritual accounting. So we know about financial accounting on some level. We know about accounting of many things in our life that we take accounting for. But when we talk about spiritual accounting, this is the month for spiritual accounting. It's the time to really just take stock of what is working and what needs to be worked better, right? What could be worked a little bit better. And so in tonight's class, we're going to be speaking about this power of the month of Elul. Welcome, guys. But the power of this month of Elul, which is such an auspicious month. And why is it such an auspicious month, right? Why does it have so much powerful symbolic meanings as well as contradictions? So like anything, life is filled with contradictions, and life is actually all about contradictions. And within the contradictions is very often when we find the deepest meaning. And the month itself is actually a contradiction because it's the last month of the year, right? And yet this last month of the year is the month which is now setting us off, spring boarding us to go to the future. So it's the last month of the year where it's like, okay, so what was going on? What happened? The year, so to speak, on the Jewish calendar is closing, right? And we know, like in the secular calendar, by the end of December, nobody's working and everyone is getting ready for accounting for the next year, et cetera, et cetera. Here, it's the same thing. It's only on a spiritual level that basically things come to an end and everything culminates. Everything ends off over here at this point. And we start off with the month of Elul, the 12th month. We start off then something new. So the sign of the month of Elul is the Virgo, is Betula. Anyone here a Virgo? Betula, beside, right? So yeah, so this week's coming up. So I'm very much aware of this month, of the contradictory powers of this month, just like, and a lot of it is really misunderstood, right? The power of this month. So the whole idea of the Virgo is Rebecca, you're a Virgo, Tali, you're a Virgo. I think I remember that. So the whole notion of the Virgo, of the Betula, is the power of the feminine. And it's a feminine strength, it's a feminine power, right? That within the there's room, like feel free to wherever, that the Virgo is the feminine power of earth. Really, it's the feminine power of potentiality, where once again we have contradiction when we think about earth, when we think about the land that we actually live on. That on the one hand we're stomping on the land, right, with our feet. We're like, yeah, that's lowly. We're looking up at the sky, which we should. But on the other hand, the earth itself is giving us the vitality of life, right? Everything, right? Everything comes from Mother Earth. People call it, right? So the notion of the Virgo, the notion of the Betula, it really has to do with the earth. And the earth, in the sense of connecting to a place, connecting to a power which is hidden, yet that power is able to revitalize itself and to create something exponentially greater than what was planted in it. And that notion just blows my mind. I don't know about you guys. We call it nature, but really it's a miracle. The sages say, you think that nature is nature and miracles are miracles. No, we're not understanding things properly. Nature is miracles. It's just we're just used to it. We just take it for granted. But the truth is that every single second that nature is unfolding, it's so hidden and it's so sublime that we can't even pay attention to it. It's happening so many frames that we're just like, yeah, well, it's normal. But how do we get in touch with nature? Anyone connected to nature? I happen to be very much connected to nature, and for me, nature, and in fact, it's something that I discovered very recently, is something called earthing, right? And my kids sometimes they're like, "What are you doing? You took off your shoes and you're in nature." I'm like, "Yes, I'm actually feeling I'm feeling the earth," and it became an incredibly grounding process. But what would you guys say is a way to capture the magnificence of nature?
To see.
Okay.
Wake up every morning.
Okay. So we've got eyes. Absolutely.
Ears to hear the birds and the monkeys.
Yeah. Yes. What do you say?
The 5 senses.
Which one of the 5 senses is the most? What do you guys say? Which one of the 5 senses is the most
Touch.
hearing? Say that again.
Because when we hear the nature, you are connected with that or it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's seeing and hearing.
Seeing and hearing, right? Okay. Anyone else?
I think perhaps touch.
Yes.
With regard to nature is so deep, because you can look at a flower and be in awe, but if you actually touch it and look at it, and you focus on the beauty and the energy it gives you, that kind of unites you.
Exactly. So it's
like when you put your feet on the ground take your shoes off, you needed that touch.
It's that's exactly what it is. It's the power of the tactile, of the physical. It's the power of touch, which for us we learn.
It's also grounding. I think about nature, Rabbi. It's also the grounding, especially going into the ground. When I'm someone, you just feel like when you're in nature.
You're great. Yeah, for sure. Smell. Well, you're saying smell. Smell is definitely there. And I know, like, I still remember the pine trees in California, in Yosemite. And I can still smell it, how powerful that scent is, right? And there's certain places that you just remember that smell. It's so vibrant, 100%. Or going through a whole herb field, like here, there's so much rosemary, and you just could walk around a little bit near rosemary bushes. You just smell it, and you're connected to it. So the truth is, it's all of them together. But what really combines all of our senses, and which one is the one that has the most amount of the deepest connection that we have, is really touching, is really the power of touch, is really the sensation of being and of feeling. And it's not an emotional feeling, but it's a being kind of a feeling. So it's very interesting that the power of the month of Elul is the sense of the tactile, of being, of touch, right? Of actually being in the very concrete levels. And that's obviously connected to the sign of the month, which is Virgo, which is the feminine, which is the notion of the hiddenness that is so much within nature. And the way to access that hiddenness is not by intellectually understanding it, but by appreciating it on a totally different level, appreciating the magnificence of creation is by actually being in that space and appreciating something which is so sublime, something which is so beyond. So I don't know about you, when it's been so hot lately, so it's been hot to go out into nature, to tell you the truth. But when I do go out into nature, it's just being by myself. And the great masters did this, including one of the great masters of this month that was born in this month, the Ba'al Shem Tov. For him, being in nature was the main tenet, right, of Chassidut. One of the main tenets of Chassidut is to experience godliness, not just in the place of worship, but everywhere. And being in nature was one of the main things that the Ba'al Shem Tov did, experiencing Hashem. So when we're in nature, we don't need to be with anyone else. We don't need to think about anything else. It's just being present in the moment, in the experience of just being within this realm of potentiality, which is the realm of godliness, which is hidden.
This is also nature. Nature.
Yeah, Adam, it's a sadeh, 100%. 100%. But we can't appreciate as much nature. Adam, it's actually this week's parsha, ki Adam, it's a sadeh, that man is the tree of the field. But we appreciate that more when we appreciate that about ourselves, and we're able to appreciate more of that when, in others.
You probably said
I
it.
just had an epiphany.
Cool.
I just had an epiphany. I don't know if it's time to share it now or you want me to wait.
Hold on one second.
I just missed that part where the connection between like Virgo and the sign for this month, the feminine,
Yes.
and like this whole thing about nature. Like,
I'm getting exactly
we
to
didn't
that.
get there,
Yeah,
okay.
I just want to like explain that. What's that? Yeah, but I want to. Right. So you're a little bit seeing ahead. Good. Talia, what?
I was just thinking when you first said about connecting with nature, and as you carried on, I just had the kind of epiphany that, in the similarities that we have, when you put the seed in the ground and it just creates this like magnificent something, whatever the seed is.
Exactly.
That's kind of how it is with us when we go within.
Exactly. So thank
we
you
have an
for
opportunity in Elul, and even in our darkest moments, which is so dark under the ground, that's the time that we can actually say, Hashem, let me be a seed.
Exactly. Thank you for reading my mind, because that's exactly where it's a good sign. It shows that it was they were able to grasp that. So yeah, you were saying about being. I wanted to mention one more thing, one more aspect. The Arizal tells us that a person should spend during the month of Elul, if a person is, let's say, learning a lot of Torah, they should obviously continue, but they should do more, what he calls hitbodedut, more seclusion, being alone in nature, doing more of that. Because when we're able to do that, then we're able to make a contemplation and an introspection for how are we learning? Am I learning, is it rote? Am I doing it, just by, autoplay, or am I really connecting? And is the amount that I'm learning good enough? Is the depth good enough? I'm assessing exactly where I'm at. And when I'm in it, I'm not able to really fully appreciate where I'm at. But when I take a little bit of the time off to go into nature, like the Arizal says, then once again, going into nature, then one is able to really take accounting, an inner accounting, a spiritual accounting for what's going on. So how does this connect? The notion of the sign of the month is the Virgo, which is the Betula, which has to do with, it's an earth sign. Those of you that are familiar with some of the astrological signs, is very basic, but it's an earth sign, and it's one of the soft earth signs, right? The other earth signs are Capricorn, and we've got Taurus, which are very much like action oriented and very much very much regimented. And the Virgo is a soft earth sign, which is more connected to air, because as it goes in, it flows into Libra, flows into Tishrei. So it flows into from this connection of these notions of the earth and air, right? These two contradictions really flow into each other. So one more thing before we just kind of like put this together a little bit more. There's the Sefer Yetzirah tells us that there's a letter of the month. The letter of the month is the letter Yud. And the letter Yud is the letter for wisdom. And it's the smallest letter of the alphabet. So on the one hand, it's when we talk about earth, it's associated with what Kabbalah calls the sphera of what? Of Malchut, of kingship, right? Malchut is being in the here and in the now. That's kingship. That's seeing the majesty, the magnificence. That's called Malchut. Whereas Chochmah is that inceptional idea. It's like that spark of wisdom that comes from somewhere, and it's called the Chochmah me'ayin timatzeh. That intelligence comes from ayin, comes from nothingness. So it's very interesting that the letter of the month is the letter Yud, which seemingly is a contradiction to the notion of the month being very earthy, right?
Yeah. I see it also as the Yud, if you just begin, it's also about potential. And so when we're talking about birthing and femininity, and what I wrote before is that we have a different relationship in different times of the month with, I don't know, with the Shem, which is the feminine aspect of being the king is in the field, we're in the field, where it's that in nature, where we have this relationship that also Hashem is birthing the world this month.
Right. But Yud, or actually Chochmah, is a masculine dimension, in fact. We'll come back to that in a second. But I just want to point out this contradiction and one more contradiction, okay? Because we said everything's about contradictions, but within the contradictions is where we understand something greater than the contradiction. So one more point, that the tribe of the month brought down in the Mishnat Chasidim, a student of the Arizal, also he brings this down, that the tribe of the month is the tribe of God, right? We have the 12 tribes corresponding to the 12 months. So the tribe of God is seemingly an unknown one of the tribes. Like you heard of Judah, you heard of Joseph, you heard of the major players, but like who is God exactly, and what does God mean, right? Gimel Daled. So God means good luck, in fact. I was just doing an Instagram live with an astrologer last night. She's like, we do this every month, and she knows a ton of things. I know some things, but she's like, well, we've got Jupiter and we've got this and we've got Uranus. They're basically the ones that are with it. So not getting into these things, but she was bringing this up, and I was like, well, that the tribe of the month is God, which means good luck, which is what the whole idea of fortune is. Bagad, which is what Leah named this tribe. That God came, there's good luck, which is here, and so the month is very much connected with auspicious, unknown, unexpected presence that could befall us, whether we're born in this month or whatever, any other month. But it's a month of potentiality of like, oh, whoa, that happened. Cool. Like I didn't realize that. I wasn't expecting that to be, but that's what God means. And the Talmud tells us that God stands for Gimel Daled. Gimel Daled is Gomel Dalim. Gomel Dalim is to serve the impoverished. To serve the impoverished. And who's the impoverished? The impoverished is Malchut, is the realm of Malchut. The Zohar tells us that Malchut, kingship, is the realm, it's the sphera that receives, and it says that she, and sort of like the moon, has no light of her own, and the light which is given is this light which is given from beyond her. And on the Kabbalistic realm, that's the idea of the Zer Anpin, the sixth sphera, etc. So God refers to something which is coming out of the infinite realm, very much like the letter Yud, which is just coming out of nowhere, and it's coming into our sphere, and it's becoming revealed.
How is Malchut impoverished?
So it says that Malchut is the sphera which is associated with creation. It's the one that's associated with creation. That Malchut is kingship, and that's the practical realm where the finite becomes finite, because because if there was infinite and God is infinite, the Zohar calls God as the infinite being. Ein Sof doesn't call God by names, as names are certain expressions of God, we could say. But right, he's known in this realm and that realm, but God is called the Ein Sof because that's the nature of the infinite. But God isn't limited by being infinite. He's also able, because if you say that he's only infinite and he's not finite, then you're really limiting him, right? That's what the Rabbi Yosef Albo writes in Sefer Ikrim. And so for God chooses to become finite, and that process of becoming finite is that process of the creation, and that's referring to Malchut, to kingship. And so kingship receives from what is above what is above those sphirot. And if you see the tree of life diagram, so we have the top, which is the meta conscious, which is called Keter, right? And then we've got wisdom, chokhmah, bina, dat, and we've got chesed, gvura, tiferet, netzach, hod, yesod, and all of that is trickling down into Malchut, because it's all about Malchut. It's all about this building of Malchut, and in fact, that is everything that we do on Rosh Hashanah, is building, according to Kabbalah, is really building this realm of Malchut. I know this may sound a little bit like out there or esoteric sounding in some level.
Yeah, like an example.
So an example of how yes. So Malchut is where the infinite meets the finite, and the finite and infinite are able to meet. And seemingly, it seems like, there's a finite dimension, but God chooses to be within the finite. Now, within that realm, just to make sense of this, within that realm, there's that realm of, there's a hiddenness, which is what actually the world, how do you say world in Hebrew? Olam, which also means from the word he'elim. Ha'olam is from the word he'elim, which means hidden, right? Teva, which means nature, means tovea in Hebrew also, which means to drown. Because
Teva is with tet,
nature.
Teva is with
It's the same.
tet.
It's the same root. Tet, vet, and ayin. It's the same root. Nature and to drown is the same, right? And olam, world, and hidden is the same root. Meaning, what does that mean? That nature in and of its own, the world in and of its own, is a realm that we don't see godliness in a clear way, and therefore we could become deluded by thinking that, where is God? Like, what's going on? Azav Hashem et haaretz, that God isn't in the world. What are you talking about? This is it's all on its own. And we go into that question of Hayesh Hashem b'kirbenu im ayin, is God within us or not? And that's the whole notion of Amalek, of self-doubt, of questioning, is like, what is actually happening? And that hiddenness could take us to drown. We could drown, and we could say modern day epidemics that we have now is anxiety, depression, which literally is drowning, right? It takes people, God forbid. And Teva, is to, and hell and olam is just hiddenness. The word that there's just hiddenness. We don't see what is happening, right? So the world itself, the finite of the world, could take us to become deluded. So basically, I'm just going to jump the gun a little bit. What happens on Rosh Hashanah, and what are we doing on Rosh Hashanah Kabbalistically? We're crowning God as King, Hamelech. That's basically the whole thing of Rosh Hashanah for 10 days. It's beyond right now to speak about that, but like what we're really doing is that we are affirming the fact that the world, that as we know it and as we see it, that seems like it's on its own volition, that it's going spiraling on its own, and everything is happening in its own rhyme and reason methodology that is unknown to us, is really all ordained, and everything is ashkacha pratit, everything is divinely ordained on every single level. And why? Because there's a king. And just like when you talk about a king who's in control of a country, the king has control over every single centimeter, right, of the country. And if you say, well, this centimeter is its own domain, so then the king is going to go to war against that, that whatever house that says, this is a new country, my house is a new country, my block is a new country. The king's gonna be like, what are you talking about? This is my country.
Yes, in Israel it's quite possible.
God forbid. Yeah.
I've seen.
Well, that's what they wanted to do in the United States, of kicking out the police and whatever. I don't want to get into politics. That's enough. Maybe, yeah, but in the meantime, we definitely need it. So going back to that practical
Maybe even
idea
now, like I don't know how much you spoke about it, but like now, today, right? We're in the second day of Rosh Chodesh. Okay. So where do we see Malchut there?
We see Malchut in that's exactly what we're talking about. Like, how do we see Malchut? And the answer is that we don't see Malchut per se.
So
because what just
Malchut is a process.
Malchut is a process. Malchut is a dimension. And Malchut is really us as well.
Okay.
We are,
of course, but
we're a
let's
combination.
There is like, you can explain an apple in billion different ways. If we were to explain Malchut from
Apple is actually a Malchut also. The Chakal Tapuchin Kadishin, an apple orchard, which is where the Arizal went. Anyways, go on. The Tikkunei Zohar, which is actually traditionally learned on during this month. The Zohar, there's something called Tikkunei Zohar, which Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote. There's 70. All of them have to do with the fixing of Malchut. And it's a very holy book.
So let's imagine now, let's say in Jewish philosophy, we have three levels, which is Ani im Atzmi, right? Ani im Achi, right? Ani im Achirim, something like that. So how do I deal with myself? How do I deal with my neighbor? And how do I deal with the society? Okay. So if we were to look at Malchut at the level,
it's Yom Kippur, what you say.
no, it's not Yom Kippur. It's like a layers of philosophy.
Ben Adam לעצמו, Ben Adam לחברו, Ben Adam למקום. The third one is Ben Adam למקום. The third one is Ben Adam למקום. Society and אחרים.
Society,
the same thing.
Which is what is Makom?
Be precise, and I'm not trying.
It's a name of Hashem, which is the space, which is very interesting.
I'm not trying to be precise or smart, but I want to understand. If we were to apply Malchut to the society, okay, where do you see Malchut in society?
So one second, let's
Okay, you
Yeah.
park it.
Yeah.
Park it.
Yeah.
Malchut is everything on earth. Malchut is earth. Malchut is here.
Okay.
What to see?
So I want to bring together, we had a question before you arrived, and the question is that there's a certain contradiction, that on the one hand, the sign of the month is the Virgo, which is earth, and it talks about potentiality, and we talked about the way to access that realm is not through the sight and necessarily hearing and not even smelling. It's really a tactile expression of being. And then we spoke about how this month is essentially a contradiction, that it also is very much uplifted. Like, again, like it has this very elevated energy to it, that there's God, that's the tribe of God, which is luck, the letter Yud, etc. And there's these contradictions that were going on, right? And this really brings us to the essence of Malchut and the fixing of Malchut, and us going into the field, because the king is in the field, right? The famous analogy of experiencing the creator who is in the field, within the world, within this realm of potentiality, of things could go in both ways. And Malchut is basically found on multiple levels. It's found on the level of earth. It's found on the level of, it's a sphera. It's a dimension. It's a sphera, and it is found within us, on our in our beings, basically, our physical self and our spiritual self, and part of ourselves which is connected to the realm of action. So how do these contradictions come along? How do they really make sense within each other, right? It seems like they're completely opposite. And the answer is that creation and earth is not something that we are able to understand at all, right? Earth and the planting of a seed is something which is exponentially beyond what we put into it. And the growth comes in not because of how much necessarily we tended. Yes, it's important, but it's the realm of how much do we trust in the process. And this realm of connecting, of transforming, is different than any other month, because all other months are very much, well, we're working on this domain, we're working on that domain. In this month, we're working on being beyond our domains, being beyond the limitation of what we think is possible for ourselves, because of the type of seeds that were sown inside of our minds, right? The type of work that we're doing. Does this resonate with you? What? Yeah.
I know, I'm like not understanding the connection from one to the next to the next. So we have one thing that the sign of the month is Virgo, that is grounding, and that tactile, like feeling and touching,
Yes.
and everything, and being grounded is like a huge part of the month.
Yeah.
Then another part was like the Yud and Malchut, and about like fortune and God and like all these like but I don't understand how that's contradictory to each other. Like, I understand they're different, two different things, but I don't understand how they're contradicting each other. Like, how is grounding and feeling and everything contradiction to like giving? Like, I don't understand, like with God and
God and the letter Yud are very sublime, spiritual, and beyond the world type of elements.
very like spiritual, godly
Right.
things.
Exactly.
Oh, so you're
Whereas,
saying it's opposite because one is about earth and one is about like
yeah,
heavenly
air.
aspects.
They're contradictions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you're saying that what now to understand the contradiction,
They come
how do we
together.
understand it?
So that's where we started off with that the world, our growth, the growth that we go through only happens because of the contradictions. Because of the contradictions that we think that they are contradictions, that's exactly where birth really happens. New possibilities happen. So what is this contradiction more specifically? This contradiction is the letter Yud. The letter Yud is the realm of what is referred to as the father, because that has to do with Chochmah, with divine intelligence, whereas Malchut is the daughter. And it says that there's a special relationship between father and daughter. That there's a whether that comes into fruition on in a real level or not, but there is intrinsically a connection that happens, and more of son and mother. But the connection between father and daughter, it actually says this in the Talmud, that Avraham was blessed bakol, in everything. So the Talmud says, well, what does that mean, everything? So the Talmud says that he had a daughter called Bakol. Why does the Talmud tell us that he had we know about Isaac, we know about Yishmael, but we know about this daughter called Bakol. Like, what's the deal with her? Right? So Bakol is actually the gematria of 52, which has to do with the physical, which has to do with the elevation, of below to above. And these two realms, the inceptional realm of the Chochmah, of the potential of the father, and the daughter, which is the recipient, the feminine, they are intrinsically connected. Although it seems like they're two different realms, but they're really one. It actually is a teaching to say that about the Zohar says that what is Shabbat? Shabbat is the letters Shin and Bat. Bat is a daughter. Shin, it refers to the three forefathers, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And Shabbat is a form of contradiction, because what do we do on Shabbat? Lecha dodi likas kala. Kala is the malchut, is the realm of malchut, of the feminine, that becomes uplifted towards the groom, right? And the Zohar tells us that Shabbat is so magnificent because it's not just the rest that we do, but there's a revelation that happens, and that revelation is expressed all the way down in the physical realm, because for the physical and the spiritual to interact, not just interact, but to enmesh within each other, where the finite and the infinite are really one, and we recognize the infinite within the finite. That is the purpose of existence. The purpose of existence is to sense the revelation of that letter Yud within the finite. Now, very interesting. It says that there's a body part of every month. So the body part of the month of Elul is the left arm, which on the left arm traditionally the tefillin is worn, which is there's a little letter Yud, which is worn on the arm, and the left arm represents the susceptible, the vulnerable, the dal. What's that?
Gura? Isn't it? Gura is left. It's not right.
Left is Gura.
Yes.
And this is Gura.
Which Malchut is comprised of Gevura.
This one.
Yeah, and it's mostly made out of Gevura is feminine. Yeah.
So,
Isaac had
This is feminine?
Yeah.
learned something new.
No, I didn't learn it.
It sounds like
That's good. I'm glad. So there's a letter Yud that's there on the tefillin, which is actually kept opposite of our hearts, and that notion of Yud, which is the Chochmah, which is the divine infinite potential, is meant to find its way into our hearts, find its way into our vulnerable places, that place of Dal, right? Gomel Dalim, that place of the left arm is Gevura, but the left arm is the left represents the more of the weaker part of ourselves. Whoever's a lefty, what's that?
We just told the opposite to the meaning of Bura.
It's
Bura is associated with something
with
strong.
strength, but it has to do also with the vulnerable part of ourselves, which we need to fix more. According to the Zohar, the left has to interact, or the right needs to be above the left. That the left, that the boundaries and the strictness has to recognize that it's that she is receiving from the level of chesed. The chesed, the energy of chesed, which is the right side, is really the realm which we're aspiring Gevura to really be governed by, not by a negative, punitive level of punishment and discipline, but that it should come from a level of taking that potential of punitive discipline into a level of now discipline, which is going to build me.
This is Malchut.
Which is Malchut, which is building it up, exactly.
Which is taking the infinite and
very good
limited into
within that. Very good, and uplifting that, right?
Is that why you pulled the challah like that?
Yes. Yeah. There's the idea of the right over the left, and the idea of the Kohanim, and the Levim. The Kohen is the energy of Chesed, of kindness, and the Levim are serving the Kohanim, and they are subordinate to the Kohanim, right? In terms of that energy.
So we did the challah in the salt. It's supposed to put in the salt in the challah. Challah is the rock, and then salt is the din. Right?
Salt is Gvura. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's salt is a very high level of Gvura, which is a mineral, in fact, and it's connected to the physical world, right? The notion of salt, which is the most it goes everywhere, right? Salt is something which all foods basically need, unless you're from Germany and don't eat any.
Could that go back to earth and air? Like challah could be the air and salt could be the earth, and you're like uniting them.
Without it, no?
Could be. So, but let's talk about us and bring this down into our domain, our dimensions, and bringing it a little bit more practically into the here and now and into our lives. The month which we are currently in, right? Every month is special. Every month is a month of potentiality within that specific month, but this month has an extra amount of specialness to it because it's the last month going again. It's the last month is basically Malchut. It's the end. It's receiving from the entire year and receiving all the energy and all that was done during the year. And it's taking that, and it's the Virgo, and taking that immaculate, perfect potential, which is found within each and every one of us, in our souls, in our neshama, that we're a portion of God, chelek elokam imal mamish, that we're a portion of the divine, regardless of what we've done, the thoughts that we've had, etc. During this month, we're able to, or we need to really contemplate by going into nature to find out our nature, to discover our nature. We go into nature to discover our nature, right? To discover that the king is in the field. We go into the field to discover our field, to discover that, hey, that all those thoughts and all that craziness, the mishuga, everything that was going on, is that really me? Are my thoughts really me? Or are my thoughts maybe not me? Maybe I could observe my thoughts and maybe not have to take them as, as for face value, as being the truth of I'm thinking it, so it must be. So this is going to happen. Oh, that I'm thinking it, and we get filled with the anxiety of things which are not even reality because our thoughts are so rampant. And when we and the reason for that is because we become so enmeshed with extraneous things, and this month gives us the opportunity to just take the time to observe the real self, our real essence. Right, and we'll talk about it more like next week. There's a special tehillim that we say during the whole month of this month of Elul, which is the David Hashem Olivi Shimimira for David. And it says, Panai, I search my face, will search your face. That's the word for it. That my face, what's panim? Panim is my face, but panim comes from the word pnimiyut. Where's my pnimiyut? Where's my pnimiyut? My pnimiyut is right here, right now, inside of my heart, inside of my being, inside of my soul. That's the real self. That's really who I am. And when I search for that and I find that, then I'm able to find the pnimiyut within the creator, within the world, within the big world outside of me. I find it within this world, within my world, but within the world outside of me, which is really my world, right? The world outside of me, going back to your question, the society, the world outside of me is really a manifestation of the world which is inside of me in many ways. What we see outside is not just happening on its own.
It is of how we are.
Yeah.
So maybe it's for after this class.
Yeah.
Kabbalah have a
On society.
A way. So okay, so you said there is a tehillim, which I heard that there's certain type of tehillim that is saved for like 52 days.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's it. David
that's
Hashem
the one-
Olivi Shi. Yes.
If I can ask later.
Psalms 27.
But then, so
do you,
what is the way, what is the process that a person can take themselves through in order to actually see? Because like there is one thing which is the thoughts that we experience every day, today, and the thoughts that we experience over a period of time, right? So let's say there are different patterns of these thoughts, and you say that Elul is the month when we can actually kind of shade off our skin of our thoughts, right? So it's a good month, if I understand correctly, for us to kind of totally do a haircut to our thoughts, to kind of say whatever we thought before, let it go, and then the new year, the Rosh Hashanah, I kind of have the opportunity to enter without actually carrying my old thoughts into the new year. So,
and more than that, by doing that and connecting to my inner world, my inner self, right, then I'm able to go exponentially into a new possibility, which is completely new. And just to underscore like how important this is and how we take it for granted, we really think the hardest thing to do is to think that change is possible, that I'm actually able to change. Why? Because we're thinking about change, and in our mind, we're already capping ourselves by our own minds. So to change is really the hardest thing in the world to do, unless we change our own minds, and unless we change the actual mindset and the very neurons which are firing in our brains are unless they change, then nothing else is really going to change.
in about 27, I thought you were supposed to start some 27 today.
Yes.
Is that not right?
Yeah, we started today.
Oh, good. Okay, so I want to
Good.
make sure. I mean,
Today.
now,
Yeah. Psalm 27. You're not too late. You're on track.
okay, because they're
Yes. So, okay, my friends. So I'd like to put this together, and if it's okay, we could do like a short meditation,
Yeah.
Okay, like a 5 minute short meditation to kind of put this together.
Elul meditation.
An Elul meditation, because what we've spoken about is really something that you could only meditate on, and we know that by meditating and by that power of meditation, where in Hebrew it's called hitbonenut, gives us the power to change our minds and to view ourselves in a completely new way, that the earth that we are in is actually incredible soil, incredible fertile soil that has the possibility of growing and transforming and becoming exponentially greater. And before we start, I'll just say one more thing, that this is why God created the world. God created the world so that we are able to discover his love for us, his infinite love for us. And he, according to Kabbalah, he created us with challenges. Why? So that we co-create with him. What does it mean, co-create with him? That we experience the amazing potentiality that we have inside of us. And because God wants us to be nothing less than magnificent, to have magnificent. God loves us more than we could ever imagine, and he wants us to have the greatest good. And this mindset of shifting the perspective of things are bad, things are this, things I can't do, is really why we're in this world. We're in this world to take our earth, because Adam in Hebrew comes from the word Adama, which means earth. Adam means earth. We're here to take our own earth, basically, to take our Virgo, Mazal Betula, right, ourselves, and to sculpt it, right? Nase Adam. The verse says, let us make man. According to the sages, they say that the angels, God said it, with the angels, but really on a deeper level, God is saying to man, let us make man. I could make you, but you'll be a robot. And you wouldn't enjoy, you wouldn't bask in the infinite goodness, because I created you. And I made you limited because I made you that way. And because you have the free choice, because you have the possibility of choosing the opposite, that's specifically why you are going to enjoy, that's why you're going to bask in the ultimate goodness, because you're a partner in doing this, in creating this. So this is what we do on Elul. This is the process. And I will say, we started today a beautiful 30-day exploration on Live Kabbalah, which I invite all of you to really come on in this 30 days, where every single day, you kind of, we are pushing, with the realm of like what is possible in this day, the challenges of how do we do this, because this is the time to really wake up, to do the work. So okay, so let's find ourselves in a comfortable position with our feet firmly on.
Can we first turn off the air?
Sure, absolutely.
It's really cold, and I don't think I can meditate.
Well, you're not underneath it.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's true. Yeah,
Me neither, but okay. Okay, my friends. So wherever you are, let us find ourselves in a comfortable position, seated with our feet firmly on the ground, if we have shoes on or not, and whether we're on the earth or there's the actual floor, it doesn't matter. We're feeling the earth underneath us and placing our palms on our laps and taking in a number of cleansing breaths through our nose all the way down to our bellies, with a longer exhalation. Taking in cleansing breath and release. As we are deeply inhaling and exhaling, we are allowing ourselves to have a little bit of space within our mindset, which is what breath does. And practicing breath is practicing living. Hashem breathed into Adam, into earth, the breath of life. So just fall in love with your breath. It's okay. No one is going anywhere. Nothing is more important. And you are just by yourself in the here and in the now. With each breath, becoming grounded and more connected to your body. Feeling within your body, perhaps any places that are uncomfortable, and simply watching and observing those. If it's any uncomfortability, any rampant thoughts, any pain, simply allow the breath to enter where it can, much like a stream of water which flows around the rocks, below and above, wherever allowed. Simply allow that stream of breath and of life to do its magic and to yield the potential which is found within your body. If we almost bypass our minds and feel our body, we are reminiscent of earth, much like a clay. Our body is waiting to be molded. And we're the ones who can mold and be the craftsmen of what it is that we desire. What does your vessel look like? Says that the body is compared to a clay earthenware vessel. Simple, earthly, and efficient. Within this earthenware vessel, the infinite light of the Creator resides. Allow the contradictions to do their work. The earthenware is simple, almost basic, and the light of the Creator is infinitely intricate and shines like the sun. Imagine your vessel expanding and being formed by the likeliness of the surah, of the spiritual form. Simply allow your soul to connect and to drink from its source. It is during this month that we accept our earthly vessel and that we love our earthly vessel, our body, beyond the trauma, beyond the pain. There's the intention of the Creator for you. Were these two realms of the letter Yud, the infinite letter, God, of luck, of fortune, to fall into your life. Do you believe that fortune can fall into your life? Is it a partner? Is it children? Is it a job? Much like a coin, a letter Yud, is placed within a slot machine and goes down. That letter Yud is placed within us. And the hand which is giving the coin corresponds to charity, which is one of the main aspects of this month of tzedakah. Tzedakah tiye lanu ki. Because when we give charity, when we give, we receive. And we open up our vessel to receive. Charity in the form of money, in the form of service towards others, even smiling at someone in need. We take our form and we put it in service, allowing for the infinite to flow within us in service. So what service is called a view? This is the perfect month to find out how special and how beloved you are to God. Let us take 5 breaths, counting backwards and getting ready for this incredible new month of Elul, accessing its contradictory potential, ultimately in being in service and working towards our highest goal and mission in this lifetime. You may ask, pray in your mind for that revelation from Hashem. And at any time, this is the perfect time to ask, to make that connection. Five, 4, 3, 2. One more deep breath, holding and locking in. And 1. Wishing you all, us all, a beautiful new month. And once again, I want to invite you all on this 30-day Virgo journey that we are on. And every single day, we're all on this Virgo journey of going through finding out what is our mission and expressing that in this world. Yes. All right, everyone. Wishing you a beautiful Shabbat. Chodesh Tov, a good blessed month.
Chodesh Tov.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Many blessings. Chodesh Tov.
Thank you.